At 9:17 in the morning, every phone in the city screamed at once. Not a notification, not a message, an emergency alert. 3 words appeared on the screen that most people believed they would never see in their lifetime. Nuclear attack warning. For a moment, the entire world seemed to freeze. Cars slowed. People stepped outside their offices. Some laughed nervously, convinced it had to be a mistake. But one man did not laugh. One man did not panic. Instead, he moved. Because Daniel Carter had spent years studying something most people preferred to ignore. What to do when the world ends in nuclear fire. Part 1. The first warning. Daniel worked in a small repair shop on the edge of town. When his phone vibrated violently on the workbench, he glanced at the alert. His stomach dropped. The warning wasn't vague. It wasn't a drill. It said, "Incoming nuclear missiles detected. Seek immediate shelter." The shop owner rushed outside with the other workers. Everyone looked at the sky. People began shouting. Some called family members. Others opened social media, desperate for confirmation. But Daniel knew something critical. If the missile was real, they didn't have hours. They didn't even have 30 minutes. They might have 10. He remembered the first rule he had learned while studying nuclear survival. Don't waste time looking for the explosion. Because if you can see the flash directly, it may already be too late. Daniel grabbed his backpack from his locker. Inside were simple things he had prepared months earlier. A flashlight, bottled water, canned food, a small battery radio, duct tape, a plastic sheet, spare batteries, nothing expensive, nothing complicated, just preparation. Part 2, the race for shelter. Daniel didn't drive home. Traffic was already forming. Cars were blocking intersections. People were panicking. Instead, he ran toward the nearest building he knew well. An old warehouse 2 blocks away. It had something extremely important. A deep basement. Because Daniel understood something most people didn't. In a nuclear attack, survival depends on 3 things. Distance, shielding, time. Distance from the explosion, shielding from radiation, and time spent waiting for radiation to fade. He reached the warehouse and forced open the side door. Inside, 2 other people had the same idea. A delivery driver and an elderly janitor. They stared at Daniel nervously. "Do you think it's real?" the driver asked. Daniel didn't answer. Instead, he said something more important. "Get to the basement. Now." Part 3, the flash. The basement smelled like dust and old concrete. Daniel moved quickly. He pushed heavy storage boxes against the small windows. Then he led them to the center corner underground, far from the outside walls. The janitor asked quietly, "Why the middle?" Daniel explained between breaths. "Radiation travels through walls, but the more material between you and the outside, the safer you are. Concrete, earth, steel. All of it weakens radiation." Then it happened. At first, there was silence. Then the sky outside the small basement window turned white. Not bright. Not glowing. White. Brighter than the sun. Daniel shouted instantly. "Down. Cover your eyes." They dropped to the floor. Even with their eyes closed, the flash burned through their eyelids. Then came the shockwave. A deep thunder that shook the entire building. Glass shattered above them. The ground trembled. Dust rained from the ceiling. For a moment, it felt like the earth itself was breaking apart. But the warehouse remained standing. Part 4, the invisible killer. After several minutes, the shaking stopped. Silence returned. The delivery driver whispered, "Is it over?" Daniel shook his head. No. He knew the explosion itself was only the first danger. The second danger was far worse. Fallout. When a nuclear explosion lifts dirt, metal, and debris into the sky, those particles become radioactive. Then they fall back to Earth. Like deadly snow. Anyone outside could breathe it in. Anyone near windows could be exposed. That's why Daniel immediately began the next step. He sealed the basement door using duct tape and plastic sheets. Not perfectly, but enough to block contaminated dust. Then he turned on the small radio. Static filled the room. Then a voice finally broke through. Multiple nuclear detonations reported. Major cities hit. Citizens advised to remain sheltered. The delivery driver covered his face with his hands. The janitor whispered a prayer. Daniel said only one thing. "We stay here." Part 5, the 48-hour rule. Time moved strangely underground. Minutes felt like hours. The radio delivered fragments of information. Power grids failing. Airports closed. Emergency services overwhelmed. But Daniel remembered the most important survival principle. The 48-hour rule. Radiation from fallout is strongest immediately after the explosion, but it weakens rapidly over time. After 7 hours, radiation drops to about 1/10 of its original strength. After 48 hours, it drops dramatically again. So the key to survival is simple. Stay sheltered. Don't go outside. Don't open doors. Don't breathe contaminated air. They ration their food. A few sips of water every few hours. The flashlight stayed off to save batteries. The darkness was heavy, but it was safer than the world above them. Part 6, Fear in the Dark. By the second night, fear began to creep in. The delivery driver asked the question everyone was thinking. What if more bombs come? Daniel didn't lie. They might. Silence followed. Then the janitor said something unexpected. You saved us. Daniel looked at him. I just followed the rules. But those rules mattered. Because without shelter, without shielding, without patience, they would already be dead. Part 7, The Wait. 2 days passed. Then 3. The radio signal grew stronger. Emergency authorities began broadcasting instructions. Citizens were told to remain cautious. Avoid dust. Avoid rainwater. Cover skin if going outside. Radiation levels were dropping slowly. Finally, on the 4th morning, Daniel made a decision. We check outside. Carefully he opened the basement door. The air smelled strange. Metallic. Burnt. They climbed the stairs slowly. What they saw outside looked like another planet. Cars abandoned in the street. Buildings damaged. Ash covering the ground like gray snow. The sky itself looked pale and sick. But they were alive. Part 8, The Lesson. Daniel looked across the silent city. Most people believed nuclear war meant instant death. But that wasn't entirely true. Thousands could survive. If they understood 3 simple truths. Distance from the blast. Shielding from radiation. Time spent waiting for fallout to weaken. Preparation wasn't paranoia. It was survival. Because when the sky finally burned, and the world changed forever, preparation made the difference between panic and living to see the next sunrise. Ending audience engagement. Now imagine this for a moment. If a nuclear alert appeared on your phone right now, would you know what to do? Would you know where to go? Or would you lose those critical first minutes? Let me know in the comments. And if you enjoy stories that reveal the hidden survival truths of history and disaster, make sure to subscribe to the channel for more powerful stories like this. Because sometimes, the knowledge you ignore today, it's good for you.